Show you my audience. 1, 2. Alex, your finger. Okay, there are 8 people in total here. Well, 9, counting me. But. Okay, let's get this started. Imagine that your child has been diagnosed with autism. The doctors say that you are lucky and it is a high-functioning form of autism called Asperger's. At the time, your child may be nonverbal, and you will basically know what they want just from living with them. I'm going to tell you about the effects of Asperger's syndrome and the communication aspects of Asperger's syndrome. I'm going to talk about the communication skills, the theory of the mind deficit, some basic strategies for better communication, and the types of therapy that might help your child. First, I will give you some information about the communication. Asperger's syndrome is a very mild form of autism. Where some children with autism could be mute, a child with Asperger's is more likely to be able to communicate, just not well in social situations. Even though most kids want to be social, this can lead to them being involved in an inappropriate social group and have atypical behavior for their age. They like to communicate with people a lot older than them or a lot younger than them, so they communicate better with people who are not of their age. Now I will inform you about the theory of mind. As the NSAP explains very eloquently, individuals with Asperger's have varying degrees of difficulty in fearing the thoughts or beliefs of others, a concept that is referred to as theory of mind. Typically, by the age of 4, children begin to understand that other people have unique thoughts, intentions, and desires. Although some children with Asperger's have developed a theory of mind, they often cannot apply those skills when they converse with others. This may cause them to appear rude or manipulative because they don't understand the thoughts of others. As a consequence, many students with Asperger's are bullied and taken advantage of by others who prey on their innocence. The theory of mind deficits makes it really hard for kids with Asperger's. It can cause an inability to explain behavior, understand emotions, predict behavior or emotional states of others, view others' perspectives, and understanding others' emotions, just to name a few. Some ways to help are by giving direct instruction about how to understand the thoughts of others and teaching problem-solving strategies. It should be remembered that it is not helpful to ask these kids why they behave the way they do, but better to teach them the cause and effect of their behavior. Next, I will tell you about basic strategies for better communication for those children with Asperger's. One way to get the kids to communicate better with you is to say their name before you talk to them, because that way they know that you're talking to them and they can tune into you more instead of listening to the other distractions around them. Also, don't overwhelm them and speak clearly and in short sentences. Also, don't ask too many questions because, quite frankly, as an adult, I get confused when there are too many questions being asked. You need to watch their environment. If they're in a loud, noisy environment, they may be paying more attention to the people around them than to you. And just think of that when you're telling them something important. Make sure it's quiet and easygoing if you can. And if not, just say their name and repeat yourself and say it clearly and slowly and in short sentences. With directions, they can get overwhelmed very easily with long numbers of directions. So one way to help them is to have your main direction and then write down all the rest, so then they can go and look at that and remember what they're supposed to do. So basically, lists are good for kids with Asperger's, if they're of that age. And for kids who are nonverbal or have very limited communication, you need to reward their spontaneous communication. You can do this by saying good communication if a child talks to you. That is usually nonverbal. Role-playing is also a great way to get kids to communicate because they go into their play center, and that's one of the ways that they learn the best is by play. The National Autistic Society covers a few things that people have problems with. such as parents using sarcasm or idioisms or just saying something they don't necessarily mean in a way for the child to understand it. And if that happens, just explain to your child what you're talking about. Like, just break it down for them. And then if you have a child who hits you or scratches you or bites you, instead of saying no and basically won't do what you want, try to teach them a way to say stop or no, to express that they don't want to do it in a different way that won't cause you physical or emotional harm. Finally, I'm going to talk about some therapies. So there are many different kinds of therapies, and not one in particular will work for all kids, because quite frankly, there's a diverse amount of children who have Asperger's. The autism spectrum is huge, and Asperger's is one part of the autism spectrum. And basically, you can have a child with Asperger's who's mute, doesn't like to communicate, is very withdrawn. And on the other hand, you could have a child with Asperger's who you don't even know they have Asperger's because they're extremely efficient in one area. Say they play piano and they're basically a concert pianist at a very young age. So to try to use one therapy to do all of those things is just insane. It won't work. But there's two types of therapies in a very broad sense. There's a structured therapy and there's an unstructured therapy. Some kids, especially at a younger age, will do better with an unstructured therapy because it's more play, it's more the therapist will go wherever you go type of thing. And the structured therapy is very kind of following a set guideline, doing what the therapist kind of wants you to do. And then there are different types of therapies again. So one type of the therapy that I'm going to talk about is early intervention therapy. And you can get into this therapy by taking a test, and it's a comprehensive test that most kids take, and they determine what therapies would help them better and what therapies would not help them better. And they can take this test multiple times. It's not just a one-time thing. And kind of test as they learn. Early intervention therapy is most common. It deals with the behaviors and the communication, and it actually involves the parents and their primary caregivers, and this is usually during the preschool age. Then there's cognitive behavior therapy, which is a lot like talk therapy, and you use it for the kids who have explosive issues or anxiety issues. There's also medication, but be very careful with medication with young children because it may affect them in ways that you don't understand yet. Most children will also use OT or physical therapy, and that occupational therapy and physical therapy, which will help them with everyday things, and if they, for some reason, have trouble doing a certain thing, that will help also. And then there's speech-language therapy and parent training and support. And parent training and support is very, very, very encouraged, so then the parents know how to deal with it and aren't so broken down about their child's behavior. Well, that was a little bit about therapy, and remember, not all therapies work for all children, and there are many different kinds of therapies out there. So, in summary, we have gone over the communication theories, the basic skills of communication, the theory of mind deficit, and how to communicate with children with Asperger's disease. Thank you for your time, and I hope you've learned a lot about Asperger's. I will now show the audience again.